Jiba and Mrwebi. We're now joined in our Pretoria studio by Dr. William Mpofu, a researcher at the Wits Centre for Diversity Studies. Dr. Mpofu, thanks very much indeed for joining us. What's your initial reaction to the President's decision?
I think what appears immediately is that South Africa does have vibrant and working democratic institutions and systems and processes that are able to hold power to account. That very delicate balance between the workings of power, the demands of ethics, and the needs for personal freedoms appears to be being handled in a satisfactory manner.
So do you think that the process was fair and that the President went about this the right way, setting up a commission of inquiry, because he could have just fired them?
It's important that such important and public decisions are taken after processes that demonstrate that ethics are being protected and that the rights of the individuals and the freedoms of the individuals concerned are also being taken care of. So it's important that power must be seen to work, but it must work within visible democratic, legal and ethical limits and controls.
All right. I mean, this Commission of Inquiry, it's not a Chapter 9 institution. The recommendation from the Mokgoro inquiry, that wasn't compulsory, it was advice, or was this more than just advice?
Yeah, commissions of inquiry, disciplinary hearings and other such organizations and structures are meant to, as far as possible, satisfy the public and the observers and the individuals and organizations concerned that no arbitrary decisions or unfair decisions are being taken. And as you might know, this decision is yet to go under the test and the probity of South Africa's parliament, which is an attempt at that level to take care of the balance between power, individual freedoms, and the important requirement of ethics in a public life.
But we can't be having commissions of inquiries to deal with everything going forward. I mean, might we be setting a dangerous precedence because they're not cheap?
Can you imagine the opposite, where there's an absence of such processes? These processes are not perfect. They are almost always works in progress. They are almost always unfinished business. But they are a genuine attempt to demonstrate that fairness, justice, and ethics are at work. What maybe is required is to ensure that the individuals that are involved, the parties that are involved, are always themselves working within the parameters of democracy, not satisfying personal or organizational vendettas and grudges.
What impact do you think this will have on the National Prosecuting Authority? They've been struggling to win back the hearts and minds of the public. Will this go some of the way to starting that process?
Yes, that sector, that area is always, in any democratic setup or experiment, is always a hot seat, because it is difficult to certify publics that justice is being done and is being done in a fair and just manner. So that seat is always going to be a hot seat. But what South Africans and other Africans can treasure is that these decisions like this one have what historians call a demonstration effect. That all public officials, wherever they are, they get to know and know it well that they cannot act with impunity, they cannot operate with carelessness or in an unjust and unfair manner, because ethics, the law and power are going to come for them.
Do you think Because this happened over a number of years and quite a long period of time. A lot of cases were affected. Are there enough checks and balances? It's almost as if there had to be a shift in power, political power, before these two people could be brought before a commission like this.
Yeah, it's sad and sometimes tragic that such decisions as these come after a lot of unfairness has taken place, and it takes a long time to rectify. That is why one can say it's only an attempt. We cannot celebrate that this is an achievement, this is an arrival. It's only an attempt that signifies some will, but I think more political and more legal will and activity is needed to ensure that these institutions work, and they work justly and timeously. And the public need to be vigilant that this is always done and done right and fairly for everyone as far as possible.
All right. Do you think that there needs to be some structural changes within the MPA so that the director of prosecutions at the MPA isn't an absolute power, because it then depends on who's sitting in the seat?
Definitely. Power, wherever it is found, it must be checked, because there is a thin line always between power and domination, power and the oppression of others, and power and impunity. So power, wherever it is found, it must be checked, it must be observed, and it must be controlled.
All right. One question that's been at the back of my mind is Advocate Jiba. Her husband was pardoned by the president, and I wonder if that didn't create some kind of pressure on her with certain decisions. Should she have been put in such a responsible post, given this conflict of reporting to the man who pardoned her husband?
There's that interesting and always delicate balance between individual positions, positionalities, power, and interests. And it's important that members of the public and those that hold positions of responsibility are always awake to those possibilities. It's quite a tricky situation where individuals that know each other, that owe each other gratitude, and one may say favors, are found in such a situation. There is always going to be suspicions, and those suspicions are valid.
All right, Dr. Mpofu, we're going to have to leave it there. I want to say thank you very much indeed for your analysis and thoughts on this story. Thank you so much indeed. That's Dr. William Mpofu, a researcher at the Wits Centre of Diversity Studies at Wits University.